This is something that is injuring and killing people.
Some things you can't prevent in life, but texting and driving,
that accident, that injury, that loss, that's not going to happen to me. And obviously every single year we find out that they're wrong.
Texting has a draw on any of us, not just teenagers, but teenagers, it seems to have an extra power over them, so to speak.
If you're driving at 45 miles per hour, that's close to 70 feet per second. And if you're looking at your phone for 2 seconds, that's half a football field.
Statistics show that you're 6 times more likely to be involved in an accident if you're texting and driving.
it puts everybody at risk. If you don't have enough respect for your own life, have respect for the lives of the people in the car. Have respect for pedestrians and bicyclists and for other motorists. Because that second that you look down and you're traveling at 60 miles an hour, you put everybody's life in danger and you ruin your own life.
You don't know who's going to be in that vehicle that you run into. It could be your brother, it could be your mother, it could be your friend at school. Sit here and look around, and somebody next to you could be the person that's in that vehicle that you hit and kill.
What a lot of people don't understand too is if you are found to be texting while driving and say a fatality occurs, this adds up to it. It could end up into a vehicular homicide.
And in some cases, people panic and leave the scene of the accident where they've caused death or serious bodily injury. Now you're charged with that. I mean, these are felonies that will destroy your, not only going to do jail time, it's going to destroy your life. And you destroyed some poor person's life. For what reason?
We have the ability to subpoena phone records and compare the phone records down to the second to the time of the crash.
We're going to take and see what those individuals were doing in that car. We're going to subpoena those phone records to see.
Because you know what? You're not going to get away with it. We in law enforcement are going to go after your cell phone records. And if we can prove that you were texting and driving when that fatal accident occurred, we're going to charge you accordingly.
And this can directly lead to the severity of it and could mean the difference between prison and not going to prison.
It is a completely preventable accident or death, and it's not that important. Whatever it is, it's just not that important. A few seconds that you're wasting. There's an old saying that goes, I would rather lose 2 or 3 seconds in life than lose my life in 2 or 3 seconds. And that's exactly what occurs when somebody is texting.
You're being selfish. Distracted driving creates so many accidents, we'll never know how many it actually does. You're not thinking of anybody else but yourself.
What's a felony conviction going to do for you when you apply for a job? It's going to knock you out of the box. What's it going to do to you when you apply for college? And more importantly, what's it do for you the rest of your life to have on your conscience that something so preventable as not texting and driving, you killed somebody's mother, father, brother, or sister?
You may think that this won't happen to you, that this is something that you read about or see on the news. It's just some other kids at some other school, and it can't happen to you. You're wrong. This is my daughter, Olivia. She was 17 when she died. I lost my daughter that day. She was texting and driving when she swerved in front of oncoming traffic. She was killed, and so were 2 other people in the car she hit. Take a good look at her, then look around you. She could have been your classmate, your friend, your sister. She could have been you. No text is worth the risk. Make your car a text-free zone for your friends, for your loved ones, for all of us. Olivia was the middle of 3 kids. She was a very funny kid growing up. She had a lot of spirit in her. In high school, she was in band, in the marching corps as a flag girl. And she was known for really reaching out to people and being a good kind of steward to the younger kids as they came up through band. She had plans to drive an 18 or 19-year-old boy probably 50 miles from Dublin, Ohio to Urbana University. It's a winding country road, 2-lane road the whole way. Not a lot of traffic at all on a Sunday. So they made the trip there, They left shortly after, and she was running late. So she was running late, and then the texts started coming into her phone, for her to get home. It was time to come home. So it was a combination of those texts that were coming in at the relative instant before this accident occurred, when she started to come in on a curve on a road, one of the curves on that road, not knowing the curve was there. So she traveled some distance, missed the curve, overcorrected coming back, and just rotten luck, there was a car coming the other way on the 2-lane road, traveling at least 55, 60 miles an hour. Overreacting, coming back from this curve, hits this car head on. Coming the other way, it was a family of 4. Parents in the front seat in their 30s, young kids in the back. The doorbell rings. So I get up and check the door, and I could see that 2 officers were in the front doorstep, and they clearly had pretty somber looks on their faces, expressions, and they asked if they could step in the house. And it's etched in my mind. They told me that my daughter, Olivia, passed away in a car accident at around 8:15 that evening. I couldn't believe it. My knees just hit the ground, and I couldn't stand. And I kept saying, no, why? I just saw her, it can't be her. I just left her a day before. When you're months away, weeks away really from, the high school graduations, and her 18th birthday was in June. All of those things that we had looking forward, looking ahead, were gone in an instant. And when those police officers came to my home, my life was one way before that hour and completely different after. I told her next time I see her would be at her high school graduation in May. And instead, the next time I saw her was at the funeral in a casket. The father and the young child in the back passed away. My daughter, Olivia, was ejected from the vehicle, and her body flew, I would say, some 30 feet in the air into a farm field, and I'd say by its final resting place in that field, it had traveled at least 100 feet from where the accident had occurred. The accident scene itself was so horrific that the officers couldn't even take the sight of it without breaking down, just because of the age of the victims involved. And it's a couple of young kids and a family driving home on a Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. It's not supposed to happen. At the funeral, Brienne, Olivia's friend that was in the car with her, had basically hunted me down in the funeral. She was looking for me, and I was the only one that she wanted to talk to. And I sat her down, and I thanked her for coming, and she was distraught and upset, and she looked up at me and she said, "Don't text and drive." You almost knew, you almost knew that it had to be something like that. Otherwise, there could be no other logical explanation in my mind, Dealing with trying to read those messages on a phone when you're driving 80 miles an hour on a tricky road as it is, it's a recipe for disaster. The attitude that it can never happen to you is false. It can happen to you. It can happen to kids. It can happen to adults. It can happen to any of us. It affects everyone that's involved. It affects your families. It affects your friends. It affects other people's lives that you don't even know. The effects are indescribable. No, you can never change it. It sticks with you forever. You walk around with that every day. It's like a straitjacket. And I wasn't prepared for it. Olivia's message would be to love the people that are around you. Her message would be to think about what you're doing, because some of your actions could really hurt the people that love you the most. It can happen, and it happened to her. And I think also that she would say how much she wished that she didn't make that trip that day.